Hello, and welcome to this presentation about Mid-Steeple Quarter Phase 1, a new development that's being built in Dumfries Town Centre that will be a new resource for enterprise, creativity, community in the heart of the town centre. The work is starting on site just now, and the building will be ready in the middle of 2023. There's been a very careful design process that's gone on to date. The community's been involved all the way through that process. We've now reached the point where the design is ready to go, but there is still space for some last details around fixtures and fittings, the position of doors, windows, just to get things absolutely right for the way that we know our community wants to use that building. So this video is part of that consultation process that Mid-Steeple Quarter has asked the Stove to undertake. And the video connects to a survey that's available online where you can fill in and give us some ideas about the way that you would like to use the building. There's also a number of group consultations that will be available to people, and we'll be doing some one-to-one sessions with particular groups that we know are very interested in using the building. So, Mid-Steeple Quarter. Here we are in Dumfries Town Centre. Hopefully you can see the mid-steeple here and orientate yourself. We're looking at this group of buildings that are highlighted in colour. That's the Mid-Steeple Quarter area. And what Mid-Steeple Quarter is doing is, as the community, is attempting to take ownership of this group of buildings along the front here, 8 buildings along the front of the High Street, each of which has got a long footprint that reaches back into this block. So by taking over these buildings, Mid-Steeple Quarter will be able to develop most of this block. The building that we're talking about today in particular is right at the top here. If you can follow my cursor in red here, this is the footprint of Mid-Steeple Quarter Phase 1. So here we have the completed design for how Mid-Steeple Quarter will look sometime in the not too distant future, we hope. It's an exciting vision which maintains the street frontage, keeps the buildings that we know and love, but brings a lot of housing into the block. So that's the big point here, is to bring people back to live in the town centre, but also to create facilities for business, for community use, for leisure, for retail, a mixture of about 50 units at ground floor street level with housing up above. And again, the building we're going to be talking about today, Phase 1, is the building with this tall tower at the back here that reaches right through onto the High Street. Here we are at the front of the building, and it's important to remember that we will be keeping the facade of the building. So what you see here will be pretty much as it will be. But behind the facade, the building is being completely taken down and rebuilt. So if you imagine yourself coming up to the building and approaching the close here to the left of the shop front, go down that close, this is what you will see. You'll see a number of windows and doors off the close with a canopy above, and above that, a first floor courtyard full of greenery and plants, and above that, the 4 two-bedroom flats, which all share that open courtyard. That was us coming down Standard Close, and if you imagine being able to stand back from Standard Close, this is what you would see. So the High Street is here on the right, if you can see my cursor, and then we came down the Close here, went past these windows and looked up to the flats up above. So on the ground floor, you've got this enterprise space that we're going to talk about today. Up above 4 two-bedroom flats in the block at the back here, this open courtyard, and then 2 more flats looking onto the High Street. This is a vision of how the building will look at night. Again, you're looking at this the block with the 4 2-bedroom flats. And here's a cut through of the building in sections. So again, we're sort of looking on that sort of through standard close. And the particular spaces that we're going to be talking about are the ones that are marked in yellow and sort of bricky red. So the first one here is a retail and exhibition space onto the high street. Above that, we've got a co-working space. The big space, the first one behind, is this multi-purpose project space with an ancillary space that services the project space. And then at the far left, down at the bottom here, we've got a large workshop space. We open that up into a 3-dimensional plan, and you can see here again, if you follow my cursor, here is the retail and exhibition space with a door onto the high street. Coming through there, past toilets and a kitchen, we come into the multi-purpose project space, which can be subdivided, but we'll talk about that later. And then at the back, the large workshop area. Now we're going to talk about each of the particular spaces in detail now. Up at the top here, you've got the key plan that shows the overall layout, and the part in pink is what we're going to be talking about. So this is the retail and exhibition area. The high street is here to the right of the drawing, coming in through the door into this retail and exhibition space, moving through that to toilets and a kitchen behind that. Now, the retail and exhibition space will be home to a permanent exhibition of the Mid-Steeple Quarter itself. So this space will be a front of house for the Mid-Steeple Quarter project, but that will only take up a small amount of one wall. There'll also be a reception desk, somebody to help and answer questions, but then the offer to other groups wanting to use the building, and we're talking here community groups, organizations, businesses, individuals. It's open to everybody. The opportunities here are the windows. So marketing spaces, if you've got something that you're trying to communicate to the town, these will be ideal spaces with a massive amount of people passing by on Queensberry Square. It's a very, very busy part of the town. And then the opportunities for the rest of the space is up to you. You could put display units in there, you could put retail units in there. We're also imagining that this could be home to a micro retail display for a number of small businesses. For instance, people could just rent one shelf and have a QR code there that takes you to a website. We're moving into a new kind of retail here. There could be many, many businesses occupying this small space for display and selling online. Then, as I say, coming to the back here, we've got two toilets and one disabled toilet, accessible WC, and a kitchenette here. So you could do a reception in the display space, serviced by the kitchen, and you've got plenty of facilities for your visitors. The size of this space is approximately 5.5 meters front to back by 6.5 meters wide. So we're talking well over 30 meters squared. We then move through from past the toilets into the project space. Here you see it on the key plan, coming through the retail space, past the toilets, and then into the pink area, which is the project space that we're looking at down here. Now, this is in its configuration to be its largest space. We'll talk about subdividing in a minute. So this is a big space. For those of you who are familiar with the Stove Cafe, this is approximately the same proportions and size as the Stove Cafe. So we're talking about nearly 15 meters in the long dimension by about 5.5 at its fullest width. It's a very interesting space when you're looking down to this bottom wall here. You've got a door that opens out onto the close, onto standard close, obviously we looked at before. And then there's 2 full height windows here as well. These can be fully opened like doors that open onto the close as well. So if you could imagine an event happening here with tables in the close that are actually part of the event as well. It's a kind of inside outside space. And you've got this ancillary space here, which works as storage or a service space for the project space. So that project space could be, you could do anything in here from, imagine at nighttime, it could be a cabaret venue, an open mic space, a small dance performance, poetry readings, book launches, that kind of thing, or a community consultation event. We could, during the days, you could be looking at fairly large exhibition in here. You could be looking at a pop-up workshop. You could be looking at classes, yoga, Tai Chi, kids classes. And these are the kind of things where we need to find out what people might want to use this space for. We need to think about it as like a community hall that's available to, so you can rent it on an hourly basis, on a half day, a day, a week, maybe even a month. We can look at all of those options, but what we need to do is hear from you about the ways that you might want to use that space. We're imagining it, you have to imagine it as a very high quality, highly serviced space that you can black out completely if you want to do project or to run a meeting in there with a film or a presentation. Wi-Fi, plenty plug sockets, great quality lighting. This is a sort of support space for what we're imagining the town centre is going to be like, where there might be lots of pop-up type activity as there are many empty buildings in the town centre now. And this can be a kind of core hub space that supports a lot of that other activity that happens in the town centre. So if we think about that ancillary space there, you could think about that as potentially a bar that services the space. As I say, there's the kitchenette back here as well, so it would be totally possible to do catering in the space as well, and we'd like to hear your ideas on that too. The photos that you've got down at the bottom here can be don't be misled. The reason that they're there is to show the quality of the finishes, these of a kind of lino floor, good quality lighting. Don't be misled by the partition walls. It's one big open space, and the picture down at the bottom here is really to show you what those openable windows, door size windows might look like. This drawing shows how that space can be subdivided. So coming through from the retail space, this first space you get to could with this movable wall here could form into a smaller space that could be used for a small exhibition, for a consultation, that kind of thing, and subdividing the project space into a slightly smaller space here. So moving on again, we come to the workshop space at the back of the building. So this is quite a large space and will be fitted out like a basic space for, we were imagining that people might want to use this for small scale manufacture. It could be, you could run a business from in here, or it could be a bike hire venue. You could even take it for a sort of a storage space that you're moving things in and out of. The opportunities are there. You know, it's limited only by your imagination and ideas which you can bring to us. The idea here, though, is that we're looking for uses where this will be a more long-term rented space, rather than on a day or a week. We're looking for people to be renting it for half a year or a year. So where we're going next is up to the co-working space. So coming in through the retail, up the stairs and up to the co-working space. Now, anything that is above ground floor is also accessible by lift. The lift is reached through this door here, and then coming across the courtyard to the co-working space. Again, we're looking at the key plan. Should be familiar with by now, and here is the co-working space on the first floor, looking over the high street. So the co-working space is shown here as being a very flexible, open layout with hot desks for people to rent. What we're imagining here is that people with more home working happening after the pandemic, people may feel that they occasionally want to come into town and be a bit more social and be around other people who are working. Or it could be somewhere where you're running a startup business and you just need a space to get going and to work with others. This space could equally be more subdivided to make sort of more soundproof units, because we know that a lot of work is happening on Zoom and Teams these days. So again, we'd like to hear from people about how they might want to use that space. One of the great, and again, what we're showing in the pictures here, don't be misled to be thinking that's what it's actually going to look like. What we're showing here is the quality of the fittings and the amount of light in here. That we're not looking at the specifics of the desk, and we're talking about the carpet tile finish and the lino on this small kitchen space in the corner here. But one of the unique features of this co-working space is a meeting room space. If we come through this door at the top left here, we come out onto the shared courtyard, and what's shown in pink here is what's labelled as the garden room on here, which is a glazed space with a roof. So completely waterproof and heated, and this is a rentable meeting space. So if you're working in the co-working space and you've got a client coming in and you want to give a presentation, then you can hire the meeting room for an hour or an afternoon and hold your meeting. Having walked through the courtyard, which is filled with plants and this living wall, it's going to be a great space in the middle of the town, quite unique for Dumfries. So, to recap where we've been, here's the retail and exhibition space with marketing windows onto the high street, going up the stair to the co-working space, out onto the courtyard where it's not shown on this drawing, but here is the garden room in this location here in the courtyard. Down below that, we've got the big flexible project space, and with its serviced by its ancillary space behind it. And then down at the back here, we've got the large workshop space opening out onto Irish Street, coming out the back here. And here's Standard Close running along the side. So that's where we are. Thank you for watching. What we'd really like you to do now is to follow the link and to join us in the survey, to fill that on. It will only take a few minutes. Come to one of the consultations, or get in touch with Mid-Steeple Quarter through their website, midsteeplequarter.org, or contact us at stove.org. Thank you very much for watching.